Sony au titluri foarte bune, indiferent ce ar zice oricine. Titlurile lor exclusive sunt geniale. Uncharted, The Last of Us, jocul ăsta Spiderman care arată foarte bine, Shadow of the Colossus remasterizat, Ni no Kuni, Detroit,
It's over. Come on, dude, let's go.
God of War
Miles.
și putem continua, Days Gone și tot așa. Adică îmi pare rău, Sony au exclusive foarte, foarte bune. Indiferent cine ar zice... Ups, cer scuze.
Welcome back to IGN Live at E3. I'm Damon Hatfield, and you just saw Sony's E3 press conference for 2017. There's a lot to go through, so once again, we have Lucy O'Brien, Marty Sleva, and Max Scoville. Who would like to begin?
That
That
was one of the most fast-paced conferences. Sean Layton appeared twice.
Yeah. They didn't announce a new Porsche or anything. It was crazy.
Yeah, and it was just game after game after game. I feel like we should start with the last game.
Yeah.
Right?
You want to start with Spider-Man?
I want to start with Spiderman. Yeah, totally.
I think that's one of the best E3 demos I've seen in recent years.
I thought it was awesome. I think it delivered on all the promises we wanted in that short tease last year.
Yeah, it was exactly what I was hoping for. I love that, yeah, there are a bunch of QuickTime events, but they showed you the buttons, so you're like, yeah, that's what that is. Is it open world? Do we know that?
So the thing is, I think we all assumed that this was going to be an open world game. This seems more like an Uncharted, which I'm kind of fine with. It seems like it has these Uncharted set pieces, and in the middle are these Arkham Predator mode combat scenarios, which seem really cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I kept laughing because I kept saying, God, it's just so much like Arkham.
Yeah.
It's like so much like the Arkham games. But then you're right, there were sort of more moments of cinematic linearity than we've got used to with those games.
Yeah, and I felt like those cinematic moments to me, it showed heroism in a way we don't see in superhero games, which is weird. It wasn't like him beating a boss up in a QTE. It was him saving people from collateral damage.
It was cool. It honestly, like, at risk of being reductive, it looks a little bit like Arkham meets Uncharted meets Watch Dogs and how he's interacting with the environment.
Yeah, totally.
It's hard to tell exactly how much of that is like, oh, here's where you do that versus you have the, like, is it sandboxy within these confines, or is it, like, it seems very linear in parts, but it could also be this is a key story mission that we're
I mean, that's what I was saying to you guys earlier, that it reminds me of that Uncharted 4 demo from a couple of years back where they're chasing the truck. And it is very streamlined, and you're sort of held by your hand, but at the same time, it's like a blast to play.
It is a blast to play, and it almost tricks you into thinking you're in control of everything, whereas the game's doing most of the heavy lifting, but you're looking at this and you're like, oh, this is awesome.
Also, can we address the stinger really quickly that Miles Morales showed up there?
Yeah, that was awesome. So, like, is there going to be the same, like, mentor-mentee relationship that God of War has?
I mean, that is an incredibly cruel teaser to throw at the end of a conference if you're not going to do something with it.
I feel like a bunch of people are already like standing up and leaving, and they're like, "Oh, what was that?"
Yeah, it's also really cool that we're getting Kingpin and Spider-Man going head to head because of how the tangled web of Spider-Man rights with Marvel and everything. Yeah. We have Daredevil fighting Kingpin on Netflix, and I love comic books, and I couldn't recognize half the villains in there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who Blue Helicopter Man was, honestly, and I wasn't sure who the police officer he was talking to.
Yeah, I think he's actually called Blue Helicopter Man. He's kind of a throwback from the early Ditko.
Sure. But I thought it looked really cool, and the mobility in the game definitely reminded me of Sunset Overdrive. The wall running, the fact that he never touched the ground, sort of looking at different spots in the environment as nodes to interact with or jump to.
I think that was his main point of difference for me in terms of minute-to-minute comparisons with Arkham, is that you're using the environment a lot more.
Yeah. Also, like the combat. I mean, I love Arkham. It is so literally heavy-handed. It sounds like a shotgun blast when Batman hits somebody in the face, and in this, it felt much more kind of like pat, pat, pat. Like it was more kind of shadow boxy, jabby kind of stuff.
Like a dance or like a ballerina.
Yeah,
Then he would do some stuff where he does a weird loop around a gantry and just grabs somebody and yanks them up, and all the web stuff is really cool.
Yeah, whereas Arkham, it feels like you're like, oh, I feel like Batman's killing 2 out of 3 enemies. In this, every time, we saw the one moment where he knocked a guy off a roof and then all of a sudden shot the web and brought it back because Spider-Man's a teenage kid.
How much
control do we have? Can you throw them? Is that a scripted moment?
Or will there be a narrative conceit like, oh no, they're fine, they got Fulton back to the building.
It was hard to hear from where we were, but does Wilson Fisk have the same voice as Kratos?
It sounded like that.
It's going to be very amusing.
Yeah, we didn't really get a taste for what the story was. It seemed like he was... the Kingpin was in prison, and it seemed like they almost had to work together.
Yeah,
like they're trying to lawyer who shoots electricity, I guess.
But I really liked the fact that it was this action scene punctuated by him having to save the city from a falling crane, because that's Spider-Man stories are all about that. It's all about him stopping a train from going off the tracks, or
cranes are often involved.
There's a lot of cranes.
Yeah.
The crane is sort of a Spider-Man villain. They're all named after different animals. A marsh bird.
My fears were put to rest when it comes to his character and his voice acting. I thought it was really solid.
Yeah.
He seems like a really playful yet low-key character.
Yeah, and by the addition of that stinger with Miles Morales, it makes me think this is not like adult Spider-Man, but a slightly more mature Spider-Man who's been doing this for a while. And so it'd be interesting if Miles Morales at some point dons the cape, cowl,
really cool.
What you call it?
Also, he's got this kind of Oracle he's talking to who's a police officer named Watanabe, who I'm unfamiliar with, if she's even a character. I'm fascinated to know how much of this is just recent Spider-Man stuff I'm not paying attention to because I'm a bad comic book fan, and how much of it is stuff that they're making up on the go. That's new content entirely.
We don't know a ton about the actual flow of the game. I am totally fine if there's an open world for side quests and then 6 or 7, sort of Uncharted-y sequences, maybe each one having a different villain. So maybe there's like the Kraven sequence or the Mysterio sequence.
That's worth pointing out. It seems a little bit odd that they would build something like this and not have it be open world.
Yeah.
But again, we're also operating under the assumption that this is an open world game because there have been open world Spider-Man games, and the kind of thing we're comparing this to is Arkham, which is an open world game.
Yeah, and you look at it, there's a mini map in the bottom left-hand corner, and you have to assume that's for more than just window dressing.
I actually didn't see that because our lower third's covering it.
Yeah, it happens.
That would actually be incredibly screwed up if they just put a mini map there, but they're like, no, you can't go there. It's actually not in this mission.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my fingers crossed that it is an open world, and as big as the Arkham games are open worlds, just a really cool big sandbox to play around.
Yeah, like Arkham City. And then obviously at the end of the trailer we get the 2018. It's called Marvel Spider-Man. Simple enough.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's cool. 2018. It doesn't have an early like some of the other games, so maybe this is around next E3. Maybe this is next fall.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I mean, honestly, Sony's been kind of just shaking things up in general with release dates. It used to be E3 was when you announce the games that are coming out this fall, you show them off, and that's changed more and more because people play games year-round, and you align your game release with other game releases and with movie releases and with whatever else is going on. So, yeah.
We actually have our comic book editor, Joshua Yell, standing by to provide his commentary on Marvel Spider-Man. Joshua, what do you think?
That was amazing and spectacular and all the other words that you would lead with a Spider-Man comic book.
Is that what you were hoping to see tonight?
That was everything and more. Yeah, really seeing Spider-Man doing everything we love to see Spider-Man do, being funny, being heroic, doing lots of weird stunts. Nothing against Batman. I love the Arkham games, but his combat and his approach to fighting enemies is so much different, like sticking up guys and webbing them up and doing crazy things with his spider sense, and that was just absolutely amazing. And it was really cool to see Spider-Man finally get a long overdue high-quality game just like this.
What was your take on the Miles Morales stinger at the end?
That sounds really awesome that they would include him in the game. I'm not sure how. Maybe he'll be a supporting character, but also he has different powers than Spider-Man. Most notably, he can do this venom shock. You use the word stinger. He can kind of like sting people and put them into a paralysis. So sort of incorporating sort of this like maybe electric attack into Spider-Man's attacks. So I think that would be a really cool thing to see Spider-Man do if you get to be Miles Morales, who's the red and black, half Hispanic Spider-Man who was introduced in the Ultimate Universe.
Very cool.
Did you happen to notice any Easter eggs in the footage we saw today?
Did you say you were asking about Easter eggs?
Yeah, I didn't know if you happened to notice anything special.
Well, it was really funny that there was that Norman Osborn for mayor sign that got smashed in half. So we all know him is, of course, the Green Goblin. Maybe he's not the Green Goblin yet in this universe. I don't know. Also, the villain, for those who are wondering, that's Mr. Negative, who in the game story is he puts up a front, and in the comic books, he puts up a front of being this really nice guy who helps out the community. They said in the dialogue that we heard a little bit snippet of that he's the guy who runs the local soup kitchen, but he sort of has a split personality kind of thing going on, and he's got dark, like, negative powers. We saw him use the sword and blast Spider-Man, so he can do a lot of cool things that we haven't really seen a lot of other Spider-Man villains do. You know, usually the villain is it's like Hydro Man and Electro, and you try to get them to cross paths so they short each other out. But no, this is definitely not that. New flavor for Spider-Man, and because I do think they are going for a new approach on Spider-Man and giving him the white suit, making this very unique to PS4, I think it's smart to start with a villain that a lot of people probably don't know.
Yeah, for sure. That is very enlightening.
Yeah,
Thank you, Joshua.
actually, genuinely really enlightening.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
thanks a lot,
Joshua.
Joshua. We
Mr.
really appreciate it.
Negative.
Mr. Negative.
I feel like Joshua may have been the only person in the IGN war room who knew that was Mr. Negative and had a ton of Mr. Negative facts. So, thankfully, he was here.
Joshua is also the opposite of Mr. Negative. He's totally Mr. Positive.
No, he is incredibly Mr. Positive.
So we got, we were hoping to see more Spider-Man. We got a huge look at Spider-Man, and it's coming 2018. So do you feel like satisfied, or do you feel disappointed you're not going to play it this year?
No, I love Insomniac as a developer. I've loved them since I was a kid.
Sunt fanul
I always say, let them,
jocul
take
atunci
as
când
long as you
sunt
need to make a game
făcute
that
bine
lives up to the
și
standard of what we just saw.
Sure.
o dată întârziată nu mă deranjează dacă jocul este reușit și conceput ca lumea se merită jucat.
Going to be better, unless it's
Nu mai contează nicio întârziere dacă jocul este frumos și bine făcut.
Something to keep me satisfied until then.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that was a really lengthy demo, so I can wait now. If it was even just a smidge shorter, I would be a bit disappointed. But there was enough there to keep me sated until next year.
Cool. Well, God of War made a return to E3 with a huge new trailer. First impressions.
I thought it was interesting that last year we opened up the conference with extended 10, 12-minute gameplay without a single cut, and that this was it was a trailer with some gameplay jumping around the world, which I assume Midgar, we saw the Midgar serpent, they really delved into Norse mythology. All of this looked like in-engine gameplay to me, which seems super cool because the game looks just as gorgeous as it did last year.
Yeah, unlike the Spider-Man demo, I kind of wish that there were some button commands on screen. The fact that this is coming out sooner than Spider-Man, presumably, I wish that they showed us a little bit more about what this actually looks like when it's in motion, because there were a lot of things that were very cutscene-y, quick-time event-y. That said, this is the most excited I've ever been for a God of War game. It was not a series that particularly grabbed me, but this had a wide range. It had the big badass action sequences. It had the monsters. It had the Nickelodeon slime or whatever, and then snowy footprints. But then also humor. He threw an axe at a guy's head, and the guy was being a smart aleck.
I was saying in our pre-show that I was expecting to see a little bit more God of War-y stuff in this, and we did. We saw Kratos doing some hacking and slashing, and I'm actually really pleased. The combat looks really cool. I play God of War games because of that, because of the combat. You know what I mean? I love that they've attached this emotional story as well, but for me, I was very happy to have seen this side of it.
Yeah, and we see here, God of War is, up there with Bayonetta and Devil May Cry as some of the best 3D character action games. And you see here the variety of attacks he's using in a single encounter between this axe, which has sort of replaced his chains, his shield that can turn into a bit of a gauntlet. He's using magic attacks. He's juggling enemies. He's parrying, going from enemy to enemy. It showed a hack and slash nature to the combat, which was sort of absent from last year.
And so the footage that being shown here is there's no HUD.
There's no HUD.
Trying to make it very clean, very cinematic.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that was a conference thing, because a lot of the games didn't have a HUD. But they, when I interviewed them last year, they very much said they wanted this to be a very cinematic, in-world feel, which you're getting from a lot of these things between the relationship with him and his son, and then some of you assume Norse deities talking about his past. This is absolutely the Kratos from the original games.
I think it's really cool because it's almost like the amount of time that's passed since those games were really, really in their prime. It's we've all changed, we've all grown up, and I think the people working on this are.
Da. Și aici ne-am oprit pentru că, din păcate, conferința se termină și nu mai avem altceva, fiindcă acel filmuleț este de 2 minute și restul streamului nu mai apare pe canalul IGN-ului. Dar ideea e că am acoperit toată ședința SONY pe care o voi posta și bineînțeles că voi face o recapitulare într-un filmuleț, cum am făcut și la celelalte conferințe. Ok, aceasta a fost conferința de la SONY. Sper că v-a plăcut. Multe titluri interesante, multe titluri de care știam de fapt, cum ar fi DLC-ul de la Uncharted. Singurul lucru care nu știam eu personal e DLC-ul de la Horizon Zero Dawn. Lumea văd că se agită pe afară. Days Gone, am apucat să vedem mai multe lucruri despre el. Și Monster Hunter World, parcă se numea, ceea ce este interesant că vine în sfârșit pe o altă consolă. Shadow of the Colossus, remasterizat, wow, bravo, bună treabă acolo.
Thankfully he was here.
Ce să mai zic, ce mai avut pe acolo? Câteva jocuri în VR, bineînțeles, Detroit, care l-abia așteptăm cu toții, Destiny, care îl știe toată lumea și l-așteaptă, și nou Spiderman, care arată interesant. Se vede că s-a implicat ceva în producerea lui, fiindcă este foarte așa bine închegat din ce am văzut. Este experiența care a arătat-o în demo-ul ăsta a fost una mai cinematică. Ok. Eu am fost Adrian și ne auzim la următorul E3, la anul? Poate? Poate da, poate nu. Ok. Salut!